Welcome to Seniors Alive. This program features people who work with seniors and also people who are healthy, active seniors wanting to have a positive later life. Tonight, our guest is Teresa Helene of Assisted Living Options for Seniors, and she is going to tell us about many of the different housing options for levels of care. And I welcome you, Teresa. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
How did you get into this business of senior housing options?
Well, I started 12, almost 13 years ago in the in-home care business, hiring caregivers, firing caregivers, training caregivers for 2 different in-home care companies. And then during that time, I got my administrator's license and managed 2 in-home care companies. And I just loved that. And then my son passed away in a motorcycle wreck, and I took time off. And when it was time to go back to work, the lady who I'm working for, who I went to work for at Seniors First, she called me and said, "This would be a great job for you." And I didn't think I'd like it, but I ended up loving it.
And exactly what do you do?
I help seniors when it's time to look for options to move out of their home, when they need assistance, some level of care. I do a compatibility match to find a facility that would work within their budget, within their location, their level of care, and then maybe some other options, be it whether they like activities or not, because some people are not real social. And so then I started my own company in Nevada County doing this. So that's
and that is Assisted Living Options for Seniors.
Yes.
Yes. And so lay out for us the different levels of care. I think many people in our listening audience might not be clear that there are these different levels of care to choose from.
Okay. Well, you start with senior apartments, which people ask me all the time, what's a senior apartment? And I tell them it's an apartment like any other apartment that's out there, except it's for seniors only. And some of them are strictly a senior apartment. No meals, no activities, just your apartment. Then there are senior apartments that also maybe have meals provided, maybe 1 meal, maybe 2 meals, or sometimes Meals on Wheels will deliver to some senior apartments. And then from there, you would go to assisted living. There are assisted living facilities that are strictly assisted living. There's so many levels. Then you have multi-level facilities, which a multi-level facility would be, and I'm getting more and more calls for this type of facility. You move in as an independent senior, and you can have meals or not have meals. Then should something happen and you need some assistance, you would be in the same facility. You would already know the caregivers. You would already know the staff there. You would know the layout of it. And so as an independent apartment, you would still be able to use whatever activities are going on, or if there's a pool or the bus taking them places. And then you could move into the assisted living section. And then some of the multi-level communities vary between, some have a skilled nursing facility within them, some are licensed for memory care. So they're multi-level communities. And then there are communities that are memory care only within the only memory care is there. They're licensed, gated. So there are all different levels out there, which is really good.
Yeah. Well, and where does the board and care fit in?
Board and care is considered an assisted living facility. They are licensed by the state, and so when it's assisted living, they, like in a board and care by law, they have to disperse the medications to the resident. By law. They cannot even have their own aspirin. So, and a lot of times board and care, they're very high functioning, but maybe they're just, I usually think of board and care as residents who are less social.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah, usually if you're more social, you want to engage in those activities.
That the assisted livings offer.
Yeah, and some board and cares do offer activities. Some don't.
And both assisted living facilities where there are activity directors and so on, and the board and cares are all considered RCFEs, right?
They are.
Residential care for the elderly.
Right.
And that has to do with legal matters, correct? And oversight.
Right. They are by law. They are licensed by the state, so they have to. Whereas an independent apartment isn't. If you move into an independent apartment, you don't need to have the TB test. You don't need to have the physician's report. When you get to assisted living, it is mandated that you have to have to move in, you have to have a TB test, and you have to have a 602. It's a physician's report. It tells the facility you're moving into your health, your history, so that they can take care of you to the best level that they need to. They know what your history is.
So what are the signs that a senior should be considering a move, first to a senior apartment and then to assisted living and through the levels? What are the different preparation thoughts and stages that we go through?
There are so many different things to think about that a lot of seniors don't think about, and that a lot of kids don't think about. A lot of times I get calls because a mate has passed away and they were married 50 years, 60 years, 75 years, and they're very lonely. So they're sitting at home in front of that TV all day. That is who they're communicating with. You know, maybe it's a time to think about moving someplace just for the socialization. So loneliness is a huge one because that can lead into depression. A lot of times there's just mild confusion, so they're getting their meds mixed up. Once they get their meds mixed up, then they get more mixed up. So a lot of times when a senior moves into a facility and their meds are given to them properly, their health improves. Sometimes it's more expensive to hire caregivers to come in. I usually say from 4 to 5 hours a day more. The senior could live more reasonably in assisted care facility than that. If they're a high fall risk and there's a lot of stairs in their house, then maybe it's time to find a senior apartment, or a lot of times they're not eating very good. Meals on Wheels is helping them, or microwave food all day long.
This is what happened with my mom, and why we moved her from an independent, actually intergenerational apartment complex to an assisted living facility. And it wasn't just the fact that it was so much microwave food, which is sort of my fault in a way that I didn't, prepare meals and stuff for her, but I couldn't. I was commuting to the Bay Area to work. But also she began to sort of forget how to use the microwave.
Right. I have had clients who actually, the spouse is trying to heat a microwavable dish on the stovetop. That is very scary. I had a call from a gentleman who, it broke his heart to think that he needed to find a place for his wife, but he woke up in the middle of the night smelling gas. And what she had done was gone in the middle of the night because she was sundowning and turned on the stove, but it didn't light. And then she left to go do something. He woke up with the smell of gas. So, I mean, obviously those are extreme situations, and you need to consider whether it'd be time to find a new home or not. But there's smaller ones, and I think a lot of it is the socialization. I really think when someone's sitting home alone, I'm getting more seniors who actually are calling me themselves because they're saying, I'm lonely. And we know that loneliness can really make them digress quicker.
Yeah, both in terms of brain health
Yes.
and in terms of emotional health and brain and possibility of depression, like you say. Now, what about the whole matter of rentals versus buy-ins? Do we have any buy-ins here in the in this Nevada County area?
I think Eschaton
Eschaton?
has the homes that you can buy in.
Uh-huh.
And then down in Roseville, they have them. But most of the facilities, the board and cares don't usually have a deposit like a large assisted living has a deposit. Board and cares are usually just sometimes first month and the last month's rent.
Now, in the Bay Area, since this program also airs in the Palo Alto area, there are more options for people that want to buy in places. But it seems to me in recent years people are sort of more interested in the month-to-month rentals.
I think so,
wonder
too.
why that is.
Well, I think the bigger ones, they're purchasing a house again. There are places like the Sun Cities that are younger senior citizens. But what they are finding out now that they've been around longer is that they're having to sell those. And the market dropped on the value of those. So I think people are starting to say, I don't want to deal with that. I just want to...
And more flexibility and freedom.
Absolutely. And they're moving more again. If there's a son who lives in Arizona, that now they want to go live by that son. They don't have to sell their home. They just find another community to go move into.
Yeah. Now, what are... well, let's talk first of all about percentages of types of places. How many assisted livings and board and cares and the different categories do we have here in Nevada County?
There's 14 in Nevada County. 4 of those are, I think it was 4, are large assisted living. The rest are what's called board and care, smaller. They're licensed usually for 6, but we have one that is licensed for 14.
Now, I know that you and I are both concerned about the limited senior housing options that are affordable in our county, and we'll talk about our committee that we're both on in a moment. But how does that compare to, say, Placer County?
Placer County has 166.
So 166 senior. These are more than just these are more than just assisted livings, or they are assisted livings.
These are only the licensed assisted living.
Licenses, so
it's not in,
RCFEs.
yes, it's not independent senior apartments.
Okay, so RCFEs.
Yeah.
111 in Placer County and
14
what
in
did you say?
Nevada
14
County.
in Nevada County.
And so the problem is that the prices in Nevada County, because the competition is not there, the prices are higher than in Placer County. And so a lot of times what I really encourage people to do when they are looking for a facility for their parent is place them, I usually ask their address, because I really think it's important that they move them as close to them as possible.
Oh, my
I think
goodness.
that the more they visit them, the better it is. I think a lot of seniors have that fear that they're going to be placed in a facility and forgotten. And so I think it's really important when you say, Mom, it's around the corner from me, I'll be able to see it, or it's next door to where I work, I can see you all the time. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
So a lot of people that I help find a facility, it may not be in Nevada County. If the senior has lived here their whole life, they'll say to me, well, I want to stay close to my friends. Well, if you're 92 years old and you don't drive anymore and your friends don't drive anymore, you're usually on the phone talking. So if your son lives in Carmichael or Placerville, I moved a lady to San Mateo because that's where the son lived, then that's what's best.
And what I am finding at the different facilities my mother's been at is that really the people at the facility become your friends.
And your family.
And
Absolutely.
you're kind of in the present moment, which actually I think is really healthy. And you can still talk on the phone. It's funny, my mother's now in skilled nursing since she broke her ankle, and the woman that was her neighbor in the apartments is now her neighbor in skilled nursing right across the hall. And you know, all of a sudden this hallway distance is about the same distance as the apartment down the street, because it's just harder getting around. It's quite
Yeah.
amazing how your mobility gets limited, but it's just funny that they're following each other around as neighbors.
I think that's really important what you were saying, is a good community. They get to know your loved one like they do their mother. And that gives you comfort and peace of mind when you leave. And when I tour the facilities, because I visit all of them, that's one of the things I look for. And I'm giving away my secret. But if you're touring me and you don't know the name of your residents, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
You need to know them. You need to pause me in my tour if you think someone's sick. I
Yeah.
want to see that you care about the seniors who are there. I want to see that you really take effort to make that their home.
And you know, Teresa, in case we have anybody that is a caregiver watching, I just want to say thank you to them for being so loving and thoughtful, because there are people at my mother's skilled nursing who take a real interest in her. And I saw one the other day stop and look into the dining room where my mother was, and she went like this to my mom because she knows my mom likes to wave back. And it was one of my favorite, sorry about that, memories of, you know, seeing my mom wave like that, and this caregiver, a CNA, waving back. And those times and those memories and that kind of care and compassion is just worth so much.
It is. I think that it's a special person who gets in this business, and usually they have a heart of gold, and they recognize things like that.
Yeah.
They show up with, oh, I saw this at the store and I know you like it, so I bought it for you.
Yeah. I must say, since I've been working in the field of aging for the last 16 years, I just have hardly ever met a person that I didn't like. The people that go into this field, you know,
Absolutely.
of dealing with seniors are just gems.
Yeah, and we see it all the time at the meetings we're at. Look at who's there.
Yeah.
The people who, it's just over and over,
Yeah.
people who really care about the seniors. And we're getting there. I think there's a difference between our generation and the generation a little older than us, is that I remember when my grandma was older, the only place there was for a senior to go was a hospital or a convalescent hospital. And so they told us, they made us promise, don't ever put me
Yeah.
there. And I think seniors need to realize there are all kinds of different options out there. As a kid, when I was growing up, when I turned 18, I moved into an apartment. So in a way, and I'm sure at some point I'll be downsizing. I may end up in an apartment, but I almost look forward to going to assisted living. And I mean that. I love to visit. I like activities. I can't wait to go.
And have all that cooking done.
Oh, yeah, I don't have to cook anymore.
Yeah. Now, I want to mention, again, for people in the Bay Area, that the kind of placement services that you do here in Nevada County are available in the Bay Area. And for anybody that is interested in knowing what those services are, you can call 211 in that area and get into that database and ask for whatever town you're in for the people that are doing the placements.
Right.
And let's talk, because I realize that we're running out of time already, about our affordable housing, shared housing project that developed partly because of the felt needs of the Elder Care Providers Coalition, that there was so little assisted living in our county, and your awareness of the disproportionate assisted livings in Placer County versus Nevada County. So we came up with this subcommittee, which we call Shared Housing, and we've been able to get the Salvation Army to work with us on this project. But why don't you explain kind of the idea of the project?
Well, what we found out is there are so many seniors, people in Nevada County, but seniors also, who just cannot afford a place to go. And so I actually called all the assisted living facilities in Nevada County and said, you know, if we have someone on Social Security only, will you be able to give us a bed? Most of them said no. Some of them said they would work with us if they were able to. And so then the Salvation Army got involved, and what they're doing is what we're trying to do is find some of the seniors in Nevada County who maybe have a room that they could rent to a senior, probably a senior, or we're finding some seniors who, because due to their funds, needs a room to rent. Mm-hmm. So what the Salvation Army is going to do is try and do a compatible match for mm-hmm. someone who needs a room and someone who needs a little, maybe is lonely or needs a little bit of financial help in paying for it to keep their house. Mm-hmm. And so Salvation Army has worked really hard to put together a database, and we've been working trying to get questions that we can answer to make that compatible match.
Mm-hmm. And I know from our last meeting that the Salvation Army is establishing a bulletin board there where people actually who have ads for places to rent and people who want a place to rent can come and physically look at the bulletin board. And there are lots of reasons that that's actually a good idea. To have people coming on site to look. And so if people are interested in learning more about this, they can call the Salvation Army. They could also call you, I'm sure, for more information.
Absolutely.
Yes, and your information's been showing on the screen. Now, we should throw in our kind of hope that in some cases, there might be a generation difference where a younger senior who needs an affordable place to live would rent from an older senior who needs a little help, who needs somebody to drive them around or maybe do a little light housekeeping and cooking. And so there would not only be the compatibility and the friendship that could develop from the shared housing, but the person who needs more affordable housing can work off some of the rent, so to speak. And so it's a win-win situation for both people. And we should also mention that we're just talking about one lodger. It's called
right.
renting from a senior, just one room.
Right.
I mean, not necessarily one room, but one person to rent.
I think that's a great idea because you could be, I'm a senior, mm-hmm. I could do laundry, mm-hmm. I could do the vacuuming, help with meals, some of the things that someone a little older might have a harder mm-hmm. time doing. Mm-hmm. So the rent might be, in exchange for that. There's all kinds of new ideas we're coming up with, and maybe that's what they want is mm-hmm. someone who, I'll give you the room in exchange for some help. Mm-hmm. And then some of them will just rent the room out without the help. So
right.
we're open, we're just trying this, and there are so many seniors in Nevada County. We're really hoping this will help a lot of them out.
Yeah. And it's a wonderful thing for a senior who is recently widowed to, male or female, to be able to have somebody that they know they're compatible with in the home for a little companionship and to kind of watch over them. So just because I know people who've recently lost a loved one get really depressed about not having somebody to share their day with.
Right. Someone's been sitting in that other chair
mm-hmm.
for years,
mm-hmm.
and now the chair's empty, and that's very depressing for them. I think one of the first calls that we got when we started working on this, not too long ago, and the word got out, was a 92-year-old man who was thinking about opening up a room for someone who could do a little bit around the house. That's what this is about, is helping each other. I think it's a wonderful. We've been working on it now, over a year. And we've come really far. I think we've done good. We're trying to help. And then after we get it fine-toothed a little bit, then it'll be out there a little more.
Yeah, we'll really be publicizing it. And I'm aware of how kind of unique we are here in Nevada County for starting this, because I, get around to the Bay Area too, and there is a project in the Bay Area that has had some home sharing going on, but there doesn't seem to be anything like what we're doing in, say, Sacramento County. And people, I think, are kind of interested in what we're developing in this home sharing project in collaboration with the Salvation Army, which has the volunteer power and some grant funding to keep the database and do the screening and the matching.
And there is a lot of volunteer work going on with this project, but I know even the Salvation Army in Placer County is watching us. This is like a pilot program, and everybody's watching. How's this going to go? So,
and we've really kind of been through lots and lots of ups and downs on it too. It's not real easy. But Teresa, we have come to the end of our time, and I want to thank you so much for being on the program. Really appreciate it, and we thank everybody that has been watching us today for tuning in. We'll be back next month with another interesting program on Seniors Alive, and we thank the crew here today and NCTV for making this program possible. Remember to support them with your donations and volunteer work.
A construction or building permit is required for most new construction and home improvements. If you do not have a permit, you may face fines and penalties. Some things you may need a permit for would be re-roofing a house, adding or repairing